Good morning, and thank you all for coming. It's often said that true life is stranger than fiction. The facts of this case make that statement spot on. When a person who's committed a crime gets arrested and charged, that's a bad day. But when someone who's innocent gets arrested and charged with a crime, that's not just a bad day, it's a nightmare. This is a tale of a woman who faced such a nightmare. But with the help of her attorney and law enforcement who continued to seek the truth, she'll be able to be exonerated. I'm here to announce the filing of a felony complaint against Angela Marie Diaz by the Orange County District Attorney's Office. The charges include numerous felony charges, including 2 counts of kidnapping, 2 counts of false imprisonment, perjury, 2 counts of forgery, 2 counts of possession of a forged instrument, grand theft, 1 misdemeanor count of filing a false report with an agency, and 21 misdemeanor counts of filing false police reports. As important as the filing of charges against Ms. Diaz is, the dismissal of the previous complaint and the exoneration of Michelle Suzanne Hadley is every bit as important. The complaint number 16 NF 2004 previously charged Ms. Hadley with several felony counts that carried a maximum sentence of life in prison. This is a complex and detailed case, and I won't be able to share all of the details now. I wanted to make sure, however, that Ms. Hadley is cleared in every possible way, in the courtroom and in the court of public opinion. It needs to be made clear in the media and in cyberspace. Ms. Hadley is an innocent victim of a diabolical scheme. These 2 women, Michelle Hadley and Angela Diaz, are connected through a common man. For the time being, we're going to identify that man as John Doe. Michelle Hadley is the former fiancée of John Doe. Angela Diaz is John Doe's soon-to-be ex-wife. Here are some relevant dates in this unusual tale, this unusual timeline. In 2013, Ms. Hadley and John Doe started dating after meeting online. After a whirlwind romance, they eventually purchased a condominium together in Anaheim. To part ways, in August of 2015, Ms. Hadley moved out of the residence. In September of 2015, Ms. Hadley and John Doe argued over email and text messages about the status of their relationship and financial issues surrounding their condo. Some of Ms. Hadley's emails contained accusations toward Doe, descriptions of events in their relationship, and included language with religious overtones. Ms. Hadley and John Doe then ended contact with each other in the fall of 2015. John Doe met Angela Diaz in January of 2016 on the same dating website where he met Ms. Hadley. They married at the end of February 2016, and Angela moved into the condo with John Doe, the same one that had been purchased by Ms. Hadley and John Doe. In mid-May of 2016, Diaz claimed she was pregnant with twins. On June 1st, 2016, Diaz is accused of reporting to the Anaheim Police Department that Ms. Hadley sent her threatening messages over the email and included accusations toward Doe that contained language very similar to Ms. Hadley's September 2015 emails that she had sent to John Doe. And Diaz provided copies of these emails to Anaheim PD. Throughout the month of June, Diaz is accused of providing Anaheim PD officers with copies of emails showing Ms. Hadley continually threatening to have Diaz raped. Diaz is accused of adding links to graphic images and photographs of dead human beings, decapitated bodies, and aborted fetuses. Diaz is also accused of reporting and providing documents to Anaheim PD supporting her claim that Ms. Hadley was impersonating her and asking men to come over to the condo to engage in violent rape fantasy sexual encounters, and providing photographs of Diaz and her address. Starting on June 13, 2016, Diaz is accused of reporting to Anaheim PD officers that men arriving at her residence that men were arriving in her residence eager to engage in rape fantasy sexual encounters with her. Her story was bolstered by the fact that law enforcement contacted and intercepted some of these men near Diaz's residence, who admitted to responding to the Craigslist ad and believed they were being invited to engage in a consensual encounter with Diaz. On June 24, 2016, Diaz is accused of calling 911 and reporting that a man attempted to rape her in her condo's garage. She's accused of crying and meeting the police with her shirt ripped, with visible redness on her neck and on her breast area. She's accused of claiming to Anaheim PD that a man attempted to rape her. Ms. Hadley was arrested later on the evening of June 24th and bailed out the next morning on June 25th on $100,000 bail. It should be noted that pursuant to Marcy's Law, Diaz was notified by law enforcement when Ms. Hadley was taken into custody and when she bailed out. Diaz is accused of claiming that while Ms. Hadley was in custody, the threatening emails and rape fantasy solicitations stopped, but that after Ms. Hadley bailed out, the threats and solicitations began again, almost immediately. Diaz is accused of sending emails containing language that made them appear to have been written by Ms. Hadley. From June 25th to July 13, 2016, Diaz's reporting to the Anaheim PD continued. Diaz is accused of reporting to Anaheim PD that in some of these emails, Ms. Hadley requested Diaz contact her. These email requests included Ms. Hadley's parents' phone number, as well as an email address that Ms. Hadley had told police was, in fact, her email address. Also including emails that appeared to have originated from Ms. Hadley's verified email addresses. On July 13, 2016, Diaz called 911. When officers arrived, they found a 17-year-old boy outside who admitted to responding to the solicitation that he believed was an advertisement. He believed that the advertisement was real. Due to the seriousness of the threats, the alleged attack on Diaz in her garage, the escalation in both the frequency and nature of the threats, and yet another man arriving at Diaz's residence to engage in a rape fantasy encounter, law enforcement believed a serious threat to public safety existed. Based on the fact that the available evidence pointed only to Ms. Hadley, an arrest warrant was issued and charges were filed against her. On July 14, 2016, the court issued an arrest warrant and Ms. Hadley was charged in a felony complaint with stalking with a restraining order, stalking, criminal threats, attempted rape, assault with intent to commit rape, assault with intent to commit rape during a residential burglary, violating a protective order, and a crime bail crime enhancement. These charges carried a maximum sentence of life in prison, and she was held on $1 million bail. At the time of Ms. Hadley's arrest, all of the available evidence pointed toward her guilt, including, but not limited to, the emails, email addresses, and rape fantasy solicitations used specific and relevant language and religious tones which were nearly identical to emails that we know were sent by Ms. Hadley to John Doe in September of 2015 and signed by Ms. Hadley. Real men showed up in response to the Craigslist ads. Diaz reported she was attacked in her garage and appeared to have physical evidence corroborating her claims. When Ms. Hadley was taken into custody on June 24, 2016, the email traffic ceased, and it began soon after she was released and when she bailed out of custody. Some of the emails contained Ms. Hadley's verified email address, her parents' home and business phone numbers, and other personal facts. Ms. Hadley maintained her innocence, and she communicated to third parties that she thought she was being set up. Anaheim PD investigators attempted to serve emergency search warrants in order to determine the Internet Protocol, or IP addresses, for the emails to find the locations from which the emails were being sent. But the use of virtual private networks, or VPNs, and third-party proxy servers masked the IP addresses and the originating locations of the messages. In all of these cases, Diaz now stands accused of pretending to be Ms. Hadley and sending the emails and rape fantasy solicitations to herself in order to frame Ms. Hadley. I want to give kudos to the Anaheim Police Department. In particular, Detective Michael Kuna, who worked tirelessly and devoted hundreds of hours to uncovering the truth. I'd also like to thank the Orange County District Attorney's Office Investigative Bureau and our prosecutors for continuing to investigate the case after Ms. Hadley was taken into custody on July 14th and spent approximately 3 months in jail. It took months of painstaking work to remove the disguise from some of the IP addresses and to reveal the real sources of the emails. Our joint investigation eventually determined that the true origins of these emails and rape fantasy solicitations were not Ms. Hadley, but they originated from the condo shared by John Doe and Diaz, from Diaz's cell phone, and from Diaz's father's home in Arizona. The evidence we currently have does not show involvement by John Doe. During the course of the frame-up investigation, we uncovered other fraudulent activity by Diaz, including check forgery and other deceptions, including fake cervical cancer, pretending to be an attorney, forging doctor's notes, faking a pregnancy, and impersonating another one of John Doe's ex-girlfriends over email. Once police investigators in our office suspected that Ms. Hadley may be involved in these crimes, suspected that Ms. Hadley may not be involved in these crimes, we began working closely with Ms. Hadley and her defense attorney, Mr. Michael Giusti, who provided critical documentary evidence. The Orange County DA and the Anaheim PD interviewed Ms. Hadley at length and were able to verify the information she provided during the interview. On October 7, 2016, we were able to release Ms. Hadley from custody on her own recognizance while the investigation continued. When this case is fully revealed, the evidence will show how much work law enforcement did to discover additional evidence on Diaz's computer and cell phones, including user accounts for different virtual private networks and other applications designed to mask the phones or computer's IP addresses. Angela Diaz was arrested by the Phoenix Police Department in Arizona 3 days ago on Friday, January the 6th. We'll be requesting her extradition to Orange County to face these charges. I want to again reiterate that Michelle Hadley was not involved in this matter and is fully exonerated. We'll be dismissing all charges against her this afternoon. So I'm going to thank you. Anaheim PD, Anaheim PD requested that they not be answering any questions, since the case is still under investigation, that the District Attorney's Office answer the questions concerning the case. But at this time, I'd like to offer the podium to Mr. Giusti, Michelle Hadley's attorney.
Thank you, District Attorney Rackauckas. I'd like to thank you all for coming here today. This is such relief for Michelle. And I want to tell you just a little bit about Michelle. Michelle is 29 when this happened. She's a very pretty, vivacious MBA student, very wide-eyed, very bubbly. And she was going about her business getting her MBA when all of a sudden this literally came out of the blue. So to have her so thoroughly exonerated by the district attorney is a huge relief for her. And Rick Zimmer, who's the deputy on this, he and I have worked together for about 3 years, and so this is one of a few cases that we've had together. And I can't thank Rick enough for his instinct and actually his guts to go back and reinvestigate this case with his team. Michelle is, when she first got out of custody, just to show you how simple she is, the first thing she wanted was a cup of Starbucks coffee. And she has been at home literally eating home-cooked meals from her mother and laying low, and she's very happy about today, and she's looking forward to it.
So if there are any questions, I would be happy to try to answer those. Oh, there being no questions, wow. Yes, sir.
Can you address this kidnapping charge?
Pardon me?
Can you explain this kidnapping charge and give us some details as to where that falls into all this?
Well, sure. The kidnapping charge is based on Angela Diaz's her activity in getting Ms. Hadley arrested, And the police are actually operating as her agent, in a sense, or they're operating because of her. She's causing them to make the arrest and to take her to jail. So that's essentially it. That's what it's based on. Yes, ma'am.
Does this kind of expose how difficult it is to investigate crimes involving like emerging technology, or is she some sort of master criminal?
Well, it becomes quite difficult to investigate these kinds of matters, to get behind the disguises that are set up. I mean, this virtual network, or the virtual private network is pretty crazy. And then we've had instances during. I really can't go into it too much, but there's some instances in this where when you find the IP address that was being used by a third party, the third party says, well, we don't keep those records, so we don't know who actually was behind it. And so it really requires a great deal of investigation. And we have a whole forensic lab, a computer forensic lab, in partnership with the FBI here in Orange. And we've got several different departments involved, and quite a number of examiners and FBI agents, and they're all working on this stuff constantly. So it's a big, major area of not just of gathering evidence, but also of doing investigations and finding the truth about who's doing what. So it's a big issue. Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk a little more about what prompted you to unmask the IP address and the steps leading up to that?
Well, I think that in the normal course of doing our cases, it becomes imperative to make sure that when we're dealing with emails or things sent over telephone type devices, to verify that it came from that particular device, or it came from where we believe it came from. So it's pretty much automatic. We start, in this case, Anaheim Police Department started with getting search warrants, like emergency search warrants, right away to start verifying where the emails came from. And then you start, once you go into that, it's not so easy to verify. Here there's something wrong because the IP addresses were disguised. So that obviously required a substantially much greater kind of investigation.
And then how come the verification happened after she was arrested versus before?
Pardon me?
Why did that verification happen after she was arrested versus double checking before?
It's just part of the continuing investigation. It's often the case. I can't tell you how many times it's the case that we have developed substantial evidence, enough evidence to make an arrest and to bring charges, but then we continue to develop the evidence to get the case ready for trial, to verify everything. So our cases don't usually stop at the day of arrest. They usually are continuing because there are generally some various loose ends, or some things that need to be verified, or some additional witnesses that need to be talked to, and so forth. So it's the ordinary course of business that we continue to investigate after the arrest. Yes, sir.
Was there an aha moment, or is that you can pinpoint where you decided to say, hey, maybe we got the wrong person? Something you can point to that?
I think there might be, but I don't think it's incumbent on me to point that out. I don't know. Rick Zimmer is here. I don't know if you wanted to answer that.
I can answer that for you.
Go ahead.
You do a pretty good job whenever it's Hi, good morning, everyone. The aha moment for us is in about September, we started getting a couple of these IP addresses back, And we realized that they were returning to Ms. Diaz's condo. At that point, we realized, okay, we have something wrong here. And our investigation really stepped up and went into overdrive at that point. But that was the real aha moment in the case.
How long does it take to get those addresses back? Tony had mentioned that it sounds like that there was a need to make this arrest because of the danger to the community. If you had waited for the IP address before the arrest, how long would that have been?
Well, and that's the problem in this case, because when we serve a search warrant on a lot of these companies, it can take months for us to get an IP address back, particularly if the company doesn't believe it's an emergency. As the DA mentioned, we tried to do those emergency search warrants, but when those were coming back blocked through virtual private networks and third-party proxies. So we didn't have that information. And we had to then go through and unwind all of that stuff. And so we may have to serve a search warrant on several different companies. All of those take weeks to months to get back to us.
Has there been talk, this is the first time something like this has happened, has there been talk of reevaluating when you file charges in a case like this, waiting until you get that IP address?
Thank you. I'm assuming that question is for me. And you know, I mean, it's going to be case by case. You have to look at each case. But in general, you know, we're going to try to make the arrest as soon as we can, as soon as we have evidence sufficient to make the arrest. I mean, the job here, along with the other things we do, but this is to protect the public. And you know, when you have a situation arising where there appears to be a continuing danger, I mean, you need to make the arrest. So if we just, you know, want to sit back and say, well, it's going to take a few months to you know, to get the evidence, but we'll wait. Who knows what might happen in the meantime? So that's an issue. Now, okay, there are cases that take months to develop, and I'm thinking of some major fraud case. I have some major fraud cases in mind, but this has a physical aspect to it of possible danger to the public. There was a question, yeah.
You talk about Ms. Diaz's motives?
Pardon me?
Her motives, Ms. Diaz, her motives for doing all this?
Right. I don't think we've you know, have a clear statement of what her motive might be. I mean, we've got, you know, I mean, you've got some of the obvious things here. You've got the love triangle and you know, maybe wanting to put the dagger into the older relationship, but that's just, all of that's just speculation at this time. So I don't think it's really a good idea for me to speculate anymore about motives.
With these VPNs and the technology as it is, how easy is it for someone to pull off something like this, to fool law enforcement to a certain point?
Well, I don't think it's so easy I don't think it's so easy to pull something like this off and to fool law enforcement. I mean, clearly, this person made a lot of effort to you know, to disguise the IP addresses, which is absolutely going to be required. So,
Can you eventually get to every IP address eventually, even if it takes time for them to all be able at some point?
yeah, we could get to most of them. I can't promise that we can get to every IP address and find, you know, get the location, but we do a pretty good job of finding out where messages originated. So it in the long run, it's pretty tough to keep that hidden. And there was a question on this side. Yes, ma'am.
Are those investigating John Doe and any possible involvement in this?
I'm sorry, I can't.
Are you investigating John Doe, the husband, and any possible involvement?
You know, it's a continuing investigation, and you know, whether or not he has any involvement is not something that's been ruled out. And so, you know, I that's about the best I can say, I think. Yes, ma'am.
Has someone apologized to Ms. Hadley? Has there been an apology?
Has there been an apology to Ms. Hadley? Well, that's what we're, yes. Yes, absolutely.
Is this it, or?
Well, that's what we're doing here, and you know, and we've been working with Ms. Hadley and with her attorney to to exonerate her. So, so I mean, that's what we're doing. Yeah. Yes, sir.
You had a case almost identical to this late last year, Tyler Parker Best and Stephanie Lawson, where she created a fake Facebook account, basically, and started sending some threats and saying it's coming from him. It wasn't quite as complicated as this one was alleged to have been. So, but in that case, the attorney said that they also had trouble, getting information from like Facebook and some other social media companies. So to question about how easy it is it to the point where that sort of thing, where somebody could just create a fake account and then fool law enforcement for a little while, because I think that went on for quite some time before the worms started returning.
Right, those things can happen. I don't want to talk about how easy it is. I don't want to encourage the activity, frankly.